I'm Jay Essen, and today I am playing Ryan Veeder's The Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen. We are on his website right now. I enjoy interactive fiction, but I don't play enough of it, and so I thought, what better way to increase visibility of Ryan's work and actually play through the rest of his games that I haven't played yet than by putting them on YouTube. So on Ryan's website, we have The Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen by Ryan Veeder. You may remember Hans Christian Andersen's story, The Little Match Girl, in which a little girl was forced to sell matches on the street in the cold of New Year's Eve. In that story, the little girl had several hallucinations and then died. In my version, some other stuff happens. The Little Match Girl series of games is rated T for teen. We are going to play the first game. I should go ahead and confirm this is something I have played before. I have not played all of the games in this series, but I have played several of them. It has been quite a long time, but this first one is pretty short, and we should just go ahead and get into it. Despite the fact that I am extremely inexperienced at streaming, so obviously if you have recommendations, please leave a comment. Let me know what I can do to improve. Similarly, Ryan's background in linguistics and his enjoyment of employing foreign language in his games means that there are going to be a lot of words that I will not know how to pronounce correctly, or I will pronounce them with a regional dialect, and I look forward to hearing how you would have adjusted the pronunciation. So, to begin, it was dreadfully cold. It snowed, and was getting quite dark, for it was evening. Yes, the last evening of the year. Amid the cold and the darkness, a little girl, with bare head and naked feet, was roaming through the streets. It is true she had on a pair of slippers when she left home, but that was not of much use, for they were very large slippers. So large, indeed, that they had hitherto been used by her mother. Besides, the little creature lost them as she hurried across the street to avoid two carriages that were driving at a fearful rate. One of the slippers was not to be found, and the other was pounced upon by a boy, who ran away with it, saying that it would serve for a cradle when he should have children of his own. So the little girl went along with her little bare feet that were red and blue with cold. She carried a number of matches in her hand. Nobody had bought anything of her the whole livelong day, and nobody had even given her a penny. She crept along, shivering with cold and hunger, a perfect picture of misery. Poor little thing. Hans Christian Andersen presents The Little Match Girl, a touching short story by Hans Christian Andersen, Inform 7 version 10.1.2, Vorpal version 4.0.1. I should also point out that while many of Ryan's games have audio, I believe this one does not. So I encourage you to select the background of your choosing, and that will enable you to set your own volume levels and choose the volume level mixing that you'd prefer. I considered adding a soundtrack or background, but I thought that it is probably going to involve more audio settings than I'm comfortable setting myself when I'm still very new at this. So please enjoy whatever you'd like as a soundtrack. Corner. She now sat down, cowering in a corner formed by two houses, one of which projected beyond the other. She had drawn her little feet under her, but she felt colder than ever. Yet she dared not return home, for she had not sold a match and could not bring back a penny. Her father would certainly beat her, and it was cold enough at home besides, for they had only the roof above them, and the wind came howling through it, though the largest holes had been stopped with straw and rags. Her little hands were nearly frozen with cold. Alas! A single match might do her some good, if she might only draw one out, and rub it against the wall, and warm her fingers. But before we do that, let us see if there is about text. Hi, this is Ryan Veeder, your host. The Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen was originally written in 2019 as an exclusive game for my Patreon program at patreon.com/rcveeder. Now it is available to everyone, including you. Okay, have fun. I like to start my playthroughs by examining myself. The snowflakes covering her long flaxen hair, which hung in pretty curls around her throat, but she heeded them not. So we should have some matches. She was carrying 4 unburnt matches. I'm going to examine a match. It was a plain match, which her father had thought would sell for good money on the street on New Year's Eve. Let's see if looking a second time changes our room description. The little girl was alone in the corner between two houses, and the wind slashed at her little face, and her feet burned with cold, and she was slowly freezing to death. So we were cued to rub the match on the wall. So there should be a wall here. The wall was very rough, so as to be the perfect thing to strike a match upon. So let us strike match. At last she drew one out. Whisht, how it shed sparks, and how it burned! It gave out a warm, bright flame like a little candle as she held her hands over it. Truly, it was a wonderful little light. It really seemed to the little girl as if she were in Paris, France, Riverside. A rainy night, and Paris is unusually quiet. Or perhaps you can't hear it over the sound of rushing water. A storm sewer empties into the Seine River. Seine here, beneath the Quai de Billy. The Eiffel Tower looms to the southwest, glowing like gold under the clouds. There are those words. I'm not a speaker of French, so I undoubtedly butchered that. From the narrow walkway where you stand, there seems to be nowhere to go but northeast, into the storm tunnel. Are we still? Yes, you are the same little girl with the same flaxen curls, but you are like a ghost. And I am not carrying anything now. Okay. Let's examine the sewer. The walkway is probably safe, but the water is flowing fast enough to make you nervous. We can verify the water. Let's look at the river. Design? The river is high and fast tonight. There were clouds, but you can't see that or it's not implemented. Oftentimes, Ryan includes special text for singing. I look into the midnight blue, so many stars I never knew. If you don't come, what will I do? Who shall I tell my secrets to? I can't remember. Sometimes he does multiple verses. It looks like that was not the case for this game. I'm not going to try and exhaust all possible actions because obviously I would encourage you to explore the game yourself. And so if there are things you would like to try, please feel free to go play it on his website. I've included the web address, but it's also visible here in the URL bar. It's rcveeder.net/littlematchgirl/matchgirl. And you can see that I have previously been searching for quest assistance with Final Fantasy XIV. Let us enter sewer. Sewer tunnel. Your walkway follows the path of the subterranean river, east to southwest. A break in the northwest wall connects this sewer to a smaller tunnel. This is a text adventure game, so you can get away with doing stupid, dangerous stuff, but in real life you should never explore a storm sewer when it's raining. For a second, you think you hear music coming from deeper in the tunnels. The water is pretty loud, but you can almost hear music too, which is in response to listening. Let us examine the wall. It is not implemented. The river, again, is still the same. We entered the sewer tunnel, but it didn't really specify a direction when we did, but I believe if we go to the smaller tunnel to the northwest, it is pitch dark and you can't see a thing. The faint tones of a violin trickle through the air. So let's go back southeast. Okay, so it's east to southwest. The world flickers around you. You must be on the verge of waking up. The sound of water is deafening. So this is our cue. In this game, you must consciously wake up after examining a match, after examining a fire. It will take you to another destination, and then you can return to the streets by waking up. So you blink, and the world seems to melt before your eyes. And as she came to her senses, the cold of New Year's Eve crept back into her limbs. The little girl was alone in the corner between two houses, and the wind slashed at her little face, and her feet burned with cold, and she was slowly freezing to death once more. Let us strike second match. It is not implemented. I have... Okay, so it is 3 unburnt matches. So let us strike another match. An unburnt match. She rubbed another match against the wall. It gave a light, and where it shone upon the wall, the latter became as transparent as a veil, and she could see into the undersea kingdom of Atlantis, a bedroom. A tall arched window looks out on a sky of Caribbean blue and bathes the room in shimmering light. Across from the canopied bed stands an ornate vanity, and an archway opens on top of a spiral staircase. Let's examine that vanity. You can see the bed and the archway reflected in the mirror, but you cannot see your own reflection, for you are like a ghost. Well, let's check out that bed. This surely must be the bed of a princess. And the archway? The archway is hewn from mother of pearl. Well, if we are looking out at the sky, you lean out the window and look over the city of Atlantis, its coral spires glittering like jewels. An angelfish floats by lazily, staring past you at nothing. So we are definitely undersea, and the sky here would just be more water. But let us go ahead and go down then. The spiral stairs. A long stairway stretches through the great palace of Atlantis. We continue further. At the bottom of the staircase is a cathedraline statuary hall lined with busts of dignitaries. The gallery leads north to an even grander chamber. So let us examine these dignitaries. The busts depict generous and attractive patrons of the arts, arranged in chronological order of their patronage. This one is a bust of Simon Carless. So here we have Ryan's patrons on Patreon. So the next one has Johanna Leinonen, is how I've always pronounced the name in my head, but I may be getting these wrong. Emily Bogheim, Jenny Polodna, Hamish McIntyre, Rich Cheng, Anya Johanna De Niro, Carolyn Van Esseltine, Derek Sotak, Matthew Zimmerman, Jason McIntosh, Stephen McKinney, Doug Orleans, Emily Short, David Simon, Zachary Hodgins, who beta tested this game, Jacques Frechet, Michael Ziegler, Math Makes Sense, Stuart Lloyd, Jeff Lindsay, Janice M. Eisen, Thomas Burvith, Kat Manning, Darius Katz, Sammy L. Botterway, I think, Janelle Marie, me, that's the guy's name, Paul Stanley, Matt Schneider, Alan Tan, Kenneth Hun, Alex Dorada-Newby, Heidi Mandolin, Ivan R., Sarah Nerboso, Evan Downey, Carl Muckenhaupt, Garrick, who beta tested this game meticulously, Rapscallion, Robin Johnson, Carl Ove Huftheimer, Q Fever, Josh LaBelle, Greg Frost, Robert Palutzian, Grant Veeder, Harrison Gerard, Michael Knowles, Kolish, Silent Phantom, Mark Vian, Ben Smith, David Welburn, Josiris, Matthew Sylvain, Rukesh, Stephen Brown, and Via. That's the last one. Let's loop back to the beginning. So, because I really enjoy Ryan's games, I am also appreciative to his patrons. So, if I have mispronounced one of these names, please correct me, because I would like to do these people the honor that they deserve. So, let us resume. We were still in the gallery, which leads north to an even grander chamber. Let us go north. The throne room. You stand in the throne room of Poseidon, lord of merfolk, king of Atlantis. He looks down at you from his coral throne, and a shadow falls over his statuesque features. He raises his mighty trident and bellows, What is your business here, landwalker? You lower your head meekly. I beg your majesty's pardon. My father ordered me out into the street, into the freezing night of New Year's Eve, to sell matches. I was so desperate for warmth that I struck a match, and beholding its radiance, I fell into a dream. When I woke, I struck another match, and fell into another dream. The dream I am dreaming now. When I awake again, I shall return to the cold street in the night of New Year's Eve, to strike another match and seek warmth in a new dream, or else to freeze and die. The shadow passes from Poseidon's brow. Little girl, he says tenderly, I myself have 2 daughters whom I adore. To think of them selling matches and freezing to death on New Year's Eve, it wrings my weary old heart. Daughters, come here! 2 mermaids appear, swimming toward either side of the coral throne. These are my daughters, the princesses of Atlantis, Poseidon says. Fair Irene and dark Eunoia. Daughters, did you hear this little girl tell of her plight? We did, father, the mermaids reply. Then, if there is any capacity for love in your hearts, love this little girl as your own sister. Let her feel at home at Atlantis. Let her feel like a princess. Yes, father, they say, and then they wriggle their tails and swim up to embrace you. Little girl, they coo. Little girl, you must come with us. Come to my room and see my collection, Eunoia says, tugging at your arm. No, come to my room and see my collection, Irene whines, tugging at your other arm. Daughters, the voice of Poseidon rumbles, and the mermaids release you. We'll let you decide whose collection to look at first, they say, and they depart, Eunoia to the northwest and Irene to the northeast. So, I don't recall which one has which collection, but let's just go northwest first. Eunoia's chamber. Eunoia reclines on a pile of cushions in a giant clam. Surrounding the princess is her collection: tarnished silverware, coins, bells, boots, old uniforms, rusty swords, splintered planks, torn sails, and a wooden statue of a winged horse. Let us examine her collection. Peering about the room, you see more tokens tucked away, bleached white shapes from which you quickly turn your gaze. So, bones. She's got various bones, skulls, etc. Let us examine Eunoia herself. Princess Eunoia's black hair flows around her like a cape. She rises to greet you with a familial embrace, and then she returns to her pile of pillows. All the things I've found, she says, raising her arms to take in the room's myriad contents, or traded for, things left behind by the landwalkers. Your world fascinates me, little girl. I wish I could be... But she falls silent. Well, let's talk to her. Eunoia embraces for you for as long as you can stand. Little girl, we are sisters now. What shall we do as sisters? Nothing springs to mind. You can feel cold snow burning your feet. Soon you'll wake up. Let us see if we can visit Irene before we do. Irene's chamber. Irene swims around you excitedly as you enter. Oh, little girl, what fun we shall have! She zips across the room and triumphantly presents her collection. Every wall of her room is lined with racks of bottles. Rack upon rack upon rack of glass bottles stretching to the ceiling. I have bottles of everything: brandy, medicine, juice, sand, coins. Sometimes a landwalker will seal a message in a bottle. Irene smiles absent-mindedly. I've been meaning to organize them somehow. Well, when I have time. Let's examine her. Irene's hair swirls around her sylphish body in a storm of golden curls. You hope someday to have hair as long as hers, if you survive long enough. Shall talk. You ask Irene about her collection. When we were little girls, Eunoia and I both collected everything we found, she explains. But we started to fight over the bottles. Father was distressed. He so hates to see his daughters quarrel. So a deal was struck. I get the bottles, and she gets everything else. You have to wake up eventually, which is a reminder that we do have a degree of control here. But first, I neglected to examine Poseidon himself. You stand in the throne room of Poseidon, lord of all merfolk, king of Atlantis. He looks down at you from his coral throne, leaning heavily on his mighty trident. Let's examine him. Examine Poseidon. The king of Atlantis is huge and muscular. His piscine tail is coiled on a throne of brilliant coral. His right hand carries a mighty silver trident, the emblem of his august office. I think it's time to wake up, but first let us examine the trident. This is Poseidon's silver trident, a weapon of the gods, forged by Hephaestus in an age long past. And let us talk to Poseidon. You ask King Poseidon about his life. We want for nothing in Atlantis, he says proudly. No one goes hungry. No one freezes to death in the street. And so we turn toward more philosophical pursuits. We quest for truth and for beauty. He looks down at his trident. I taught my daughters to seek beauty, but their ideas of beauty are odd. They amass strange collections. I worry about that. He shakes his head. I pursue beauty myself. Works of art, literature, music, sculpture. In the next room is my collection of busts, he says, waving toward the south. Please, inspect it for as long as you wish. We've got you beat there. First, let us wake up. You blink, and the world seems to melt before your eyes. And as she came to her senses, the cold of New Year's Eve crept once more back into her limbs. We are back where we were before. Let us strike an unburnt match to see our next destination. She rubbed a third match against the wall. Now she beheld that she was in Ogureyama, Yamagata Prefecture, Japan. Outside, a wooded hillside. It's very late. A rustic cabin is here. A faint path leads northwest. To the east is a shed. The village below is full of light and activity, and you can see only slivers of it through the trees. Let us examine the cabin. There's a flickering light inside. A bell tolls somewhere in the village, and the ground seems to resonate in response. There's nothing more to hear, it sounds like. Let us examine the shed. It looks a bit rickety. Can we examine the village? People are partying down there. And let us examine the trees. Tall pines cover the hillside. The bell rings again, and your bones vibrate. If we go east into the shed, at the shed, the cow greets you with a low grunt, and the hen stirs. The cow has a glistening eye, and the hen is a dark, still shape. The world flickers around you. You must be on the verge of waking up. When we have hardly even explored, let us return to the cabin and the path to the northwest. To the northwest is a pond, two moons, a stoic moon sitting in the sky, and a drunken moon dancing on the surface of the pond. A faint path leads southeast. Let us go southeast and into the cabin. Inside, a man sits at a kotatsu, writing by candlelight. A sliding door in the back wall stands slightly ajar. The man waves you in. Happy New Year, he says, with a faint smile. We decided to skip the festival. My wife isn't feeling well, and I have work to do. He looks down at his writing and grimaces. Then he remembers he has a guest. My name is Yasushi. Please, make yourself at home, little girl. The world flickers around you. You must be on the verge of waking up. Let us examine Yasushi. He seems distracted. You can feel cold snow burning your feet. Soon you'll wake up. The bell rings again. 49, Yasushi mutters. Then he explains. Down at the temple, they ring the bell 108 times, 107 while it's still the old year, and once on the stroke of midnight. Or just after, I forget. It's a very old practice. He shakes his head. But my wife can't sleep. I talk to him again. Yasushi sighs. I'm writing this poem. I'm supposed to finish it before midnight. The new year is supposed to be a fresh start. To let something bleed across the border, it's not auspicious. So I'd better keep working. So let us enter the sliding door to the bedroom. A woman lies in a low bed staring at the ceiling. Then she turns to look at you. I accidentally had an alarm set to go off for some reason. Little girl, she says, what do you do when your head hurts so much you can't sleep? I cry, you reply. I tried that. It didn't work. She looks back at the ceiling. My name's Kazue, she says. It's a pleasure to meet you, you say. You can feel cold snow burning your feet. Soon you'll wake up. Let us examine Kazue. Kazue's lips are parted silently. Her eyes are desperate. The bell rings again. Kazue rubs her head, grimacing. Well, she is not having a good time, so let us wake and avoid disturbing her further. Once more, we return to the corner, so let us strike our last unburnt match. She again rubbed a match upon the wall, and it was again light all around. In the brightness, she realized that she had arrived in Cuervo, New Mexico, USA. The desert. Yellow grass and red earth extend in all directions, baking under a relentless sun. The air is sweltering. The sky is the color of cigarette smoke. There is so much sky. There is a shape on the southeast horizon. We examine the shape. It might be a building. Let us examine the sky. Here and there is a white cloud. And let us examine the earth. The soil is pink and coarse, inhospitable, withholding. It is, in fact, the image that the building is the image for the game that Ryan has created. So let us go to the southeast. Desert. The air is swaying and trembling in the heat. The shape to the southeast looks like it might wink out of existence. A rusted can lies in the pink dirt. The can, might it used to hold corn? Excuse me. Maybe it used to hold corn or beans or green beans or pineapple chunks. It won't hold anything again. It's rusted right through. Let us take it. We do know some girls who have interest in things from the surface world and are perhaps not very discriminating in their tastes. Let us continue to the southeast. The thing in the southeast is a low, flat building. It's not far now. A crow leaps out of the grass, shrieking, and you emit a startled yelp. Let's examine the crow. The crow flaps around for a bit, letting loose a few disgruntled caws. Then it flies away. So this is something that the Little Match Girls go into more detail in subsequent games, but the girl herself has some ability to commune with animals for reasons which will eventually become apparent. And one of her companions is a crow, and it did not occur to me until now that it is possible this may well be an early glimpse at that future companion. I don't recall exactly how it plays out, so I'll be curious to see if that connection does eventually become established here. But for now, let us continue to the southeast. Parking lot. A patch of cracked asphalt between the desert and the highway. A single gas pump sticks out of the blacktop. The white walls of the building have been painted dingy brown by decades of dusty wind. The glass doors hang open. A wrecked car rusts in the shadow of the convenience store. Let's check out that car first. A 1993 Ford Escort. License number, none. Color, rust. You hear something mewling under the car. Well, if there's one thing a text adventure player knows to do, it is to look under things. So let us look under the car. Two bright eyes, a little brown cat, staring at you warily. The poor thing is as thin as a rail. I don't think we'll be able to take the cat. The cat backs away from you into the safety of the escort's undercarriage. I have to say this is a very familiar arrangement, having rescued my share of cats from under vehicles. Let us, for now, though, turn our attention to the building. We have a single gas pump. Let's examine that gas pump. A yellowed piece of paper is affixed to the pump with a piece of disintegrating tape. It says, out of order. And the building, it's a store that appears to be open. The door is open. Let us enter. Let us enter building. Convenience store. It's not that much cooler in here. The shelves are bare. The only goods for sale are up at the counter, where a scruffy man stands chewing on a toothpick. Near the counter is a door to the restroom. Let's examine that man. He has boyish eyes and only a stubbly beard, but he's too old to be a young man. His name tag says Nash. Well, hello, Nash. Let's talk. Hello, sir. Hello, little girl. You need anything in particular? You shake your head. Let us examine the goods. They are not implemented. The counter? On the counter are some packs of cigarettes, some energy drinks, and a statue of a naked pirate. Okay. The cigarettes. They carry a lot of different brands here. Albertans, Longleafs, Waldos, Smoothies, Straighties, Roxy Lisas, Black Chains, Intissimas, East Sides, White Sticks, Sassies, Damocleses, Snowbirds, Fortunatos, and Fortunato Reds. I really enjoy that list for some reason. The energy drinks. You pick a random bottle and look over the ingredients. Guarana? Yeah, I thought that might be the only description. So let's check out this statue. A woman in a bare minimum of pirate garb leans saucily on a cutlass, smirking into the middle distance. She used to belong to my grandpa, Nash sighs. He won her in a chess tournament back in college, and when he died, Grandma said I ought to have it. But me and Yvette are moving in together now, and Yvette just don't esteem her much for whatever reason. Says I gotta get rid of her. But heck, little girl, I can't just toss her in the trash. He pets the statue tenderly. Little girl, can you do old Nash a favor? Can you take her off my hands? Take her somewhere she'll be appreciated, like Grandpa appreciated her? Of course, sir, you say, and you pull the heavy statue off the counter. Well, perhaps this will be a more fitting gift for our mermaid friends. So, we have the pirate statue and the rusted can. We can show things to people in this game, as I recall. Let us show the can to Nash. He clicks his tongue at the rusty can. I don't believe there's anything I can do about that, little girl. I do apologize. The world flickers. We must be on the verge of waking up. Let's show him his own statue first. You raise the statue toward Nash. He purses his lips. No, little girl, you've got to take her away. Take her somewhere nice. Somewhere as special as she is. So, let us wake and bring her. There were still a few things to look at there, but we can try those when we return. So now we have no unburned matches, but through fortuitous circumstances, we have the ability to restrike the matches we have already burned to revisit those areas. So we know the first match takes us to Paris, and we need a light source to be able to continue, so that may not be of much use as it stands. The second match is the one that brings us to our friends in Atlantis. And the third match is the one that takes us to Japan. So before we give away our statue, let's show it to the people of Japan. Strike third. She found the third match again, and she had a vision again. A vision of being in Ogureyama. Let us show Kazue the can. She shakes her head at it and says nothing. And let us show her the statue. She goggles at the statue. What is that thing? I don't really know, you tell her. If we return out, Yasushi is still sitting and writing. Let us examine his writing. You can't read Yasushi's writing, but the calligraphy itself is arresting in its gracefulness. Show Yasushi the can. Gross, he says. And let's show him the statue. Show Yasushi statue. Wow, he says. That's very unique. Okay. We can wake, and now let us strike second. She rubbed the second match against the wall. Hard did she rub it, and with great gusto. Yes, now she could see through the wall again and found herself in the undersea kingdom of Atlantis. Let us show great Poseidon, the majesty of an old rusty can. You show Poseidon your rusty can. He bangs his trident angrily. Litter! What an odious practice! Thank you for cleaning up, little girl. You should give it to someone in need, unless you need it yourself. Interesting. No, it won't hold anything again. I thought for a moment perhaps we could use it to milk the cow to give to the kitten, but apparently it's not the can that we're going to use for that, since it's rusted through. And I don't know who would need this, but we'll keep holding on to it. Let us show him instead the statue. You show Poseidon your statue. He chortles. Art from the surface world, pirates on the high seas. My daughter Eunoia loves this sort of thing. So we'll show it to her, but first let's show it to her sister before we potentially give it away. I don't think she'll be able to do anything with it since she's required to only collect bottles for now, but we'll show her our treasured can first. You offer Irene your rusted can, but she's not at all interested. And we'll show her now the statue. Irene looks longingly at the statue. Beautiful, she says, and she reaches out, almost touching the naked piratess. But she stops. No, little girl, Eunoia and I made a deal years ago. I get the bottles, and she gets everything else. So, let us bring the statue to her new home. But first, let's show her this awesome can that she will undoubtedly be interested in. You offer the rusted can to Eunoia. She shakes her head. Not really my kind of thing, she says. Well, we have something that you will like. Eunoia gapes rapturously at the statue. For me? She whispers. Yes, you say. She reaches out to caress the pirate's carven curves. Her lips quiver. Oh, little girl, it is too beautiful. There is nothing like it in the world. She holds the naked pirate in her hands, and a tear floats from her eye, though I'm not sure how we would notice. I know what I must do, she says. She swims to her clam bed and reverently sets the statue to one side. Then she digs into the pile of pillows and produces a giant pearl. There is nothing like this in the world either, she says, placing the sphere in your hands. It glows with its own light, so bright that you cannot look directly at it. Please take it, little girl, with my thanks. Then Eunoia swims back into her clam to admire her new acquisition. This is the pearl, which glows like a full moon. Let's see if Eunoia has anything new to say now that we have given her this. Thank you for the statue, little girl, Eunoia says again. You are as kind as a true sister. I didn't recognize that she had a clam bed earlier. You can scarcely believe that there lives any clam large enough to close its jaws over a mermaid princess and a dozen silk pillows, but this one doesn't seem to be alive. Still, that is kind of a gruesome prospect. Well, now that we have this pearl, let us wake and show our pearl to all of our new friends. Show pearl to Nash. Nash admires the pearl. Well, that is a heck of an accessory. Reminds me of the primordial egg from which the universe was birthed. But that ain't neither here nor there. Which is a rather poetic concept from our friend Nash here. There's nobody else here that we can show this to except perhaps the cat, but I don't think the cat will respond. Let us strike the third. You show Yasushi your pearl. He admires its opalescent light. Wish I had one of those, he says. Would you like it? He smiles. You're a nice little girl. You should hold on to that pearl. It'll come in handy. Which is true. We're going to use it in our next destination. But first, enter door and show pearl. Kazue covers her eyes with her hands. Keep that thing away from me, she pleads. So she did not appreciate that. So sorry, Kazue. Let us wake and go to Paris. I guess we could have shown the pearl to the other inhabitants of Atlantis, but we can do that when we next return. I will skip the onomatopoeia about scraping the match to return to the waterfall. All the rainwater falling on northern Paris is collected here, a massive cascade falling from a higher tunnel system into this one, filling the air with mist. There's nowhere to go but back west. So, to the west, we are in the sewer tunnel. Your walkway follows the path of the subterranean river, east to southwest. A break in the northwest wall connects this sewer to a smaller tunnel. So we go now to the northwest. The crumbling tunnel. Damp air is slowly eating away at the bricks in this tunnel, which curves from the southeast to the west. The floor is dirty limestone, littered with debris. The faint tones of a violin trickle through the air. Let's just check out that debris briefly. Shards of brick, shards of glass, some dead bugs. The faint tones of a violin trickle through the air. Okay. Bricks, perhaps? The walls are basically intact at the moment, but you could be looking at some serious damage in a few years, or a few decades. And let us continue further to the west, to the boudoir. The walls of this cavern are draped with scarves and veils, red, orange, pink, and purple. The only furniture is a velvet chaise lawn. Chaise, I have said this word before correctly, and yet, for some reason, this one
Chaise long.
Chaise long. Okay. A woman stands behind the chair, a violin under her chin. When she notices your arrival, she plays another long, mournful note before she sets down her instrument. Little girl, she says, gliding across the dirty floor. Her long dress remains inexplicably spotless. Little girl, you should not be here. She leans down, bringing her face too close to yours. The light from your shining pearl somehow fails to reach her golden eyes. Then she smiles, and her fangs sparkle like icicles. But you are here nonetheless. Good evening, little girl. I am Urimedante, and this is my home. Stay as long as you like, she says, rising. I so rarely receive visitors. But rather than extending any hospitality, she lifts her violin and begins to play again. There's a fishing pole leaning against the wall over there. Urimedante? assuming Japanese pronunciation, but I have no idea. I could be. I'm not sure what nationality or origin she is supposed to have here. If there is a French pronunciation for that name. Sorry, I was just been trying to resituate myself in what I need to do next. Let us examine her. I wonder if we... I apologize for the search results page, or the new tab page, showing current events. I don't normally use Edge, but I elected to choose it for the purposes of streaming this game because I didn't want to have a bunch of my own favorites. I normally would use Firefox for all of my browsing. Okay, so she is named after a character from Cyrano de Bergerac. So how is this pronounced?
Urimedonte.
Urimedonte is not how I would have guessed, but I should have realized. Okay, Urimedonte is... I'm already getting it wrong. She wears a long crimson dress. She plays a haunting tune on an ancient violin. Her skin is deathly pale, and her eyes are the color of dull brass. Let us talk to her. Ah, little girl, Urimedonte says, and she draws her bow slowly over the strings of her violin. It is so lonely to live in the tunnels beneath Paris. I wish I had a friend, someone to stay with me. I'm afraid I cannot stay, you tell her. I know, little girl, but if you find someone... I do not think she has good intentions for her friend, but we are a little girl and we are perhaps too naive to realize this. Let's examine her violin. Her violin is a work of art in itself. And let us examine the fishing rod. She watches you approaching the fishing pole and speaks. You should take that with you. The gentleman who left it here no longer has any use for it. You pick up the pole and ask no further questions. It is little more than a hook, a string, and a stick, but it's so well used that it must get the job done somehow. So now we are also carrying a giant pearl and a rusted can. Let us show our can. More trash? Just toss that anywhere. I don't care. And we show the pearl as well. She waves the pearl away. Please, not so close to my face, little girl. I'm very sensitive to bright light. Because, of course, she is what she is. What else was in this room? Our scarves and veils and the chaise longue. The red velvet couch looks entirely too inviting. Well, let us don't stick around. We should wake and show our fishing rod to some people. So here we are back in Yunoya's room. Let us show our rod. Yunoya's eyes widen at the sight of the fishing pole and its pointed hook. Oh my, a landwalker's mouth-piercing trap. How utterly horrendous. She doesn't seem that scared. And she see what she says about her own pearl. You raise the pearl toward Yunoya, and she presses it back toward you. Keep it, she says. We are sisters now, she whispers. Her forehead is pressed against your forehead. Forever we are sisters. So that's nice. We will exit to the southeast and show our rod to Poseidon. Poseidon frowns. Be careful with that thing, little girl. And the pearl. Poseidon smiles when he sees the glowing pearl. Ah, a gift from Eunoia. She must be quite taken with you. Use it well, little girl. And now we shall show Irene as well, so that she's kept in the loop. You show Irene the pearl. She recognizes it excitedly. That's my sister's, she says. She and I made a deal. I get the bottles, and she gets everything else. I don't suppose she will like the rod any better than the others did. She backs away. The monstrous armaments of the landwalkers, she cries. So you put the fishing pole away. Blink. And now let us return to... let's show these to Nash. He's already seen the pearl, but let us show him now our rod. You show Nash the fishing pole. He chuckles. Not a lot of use for that around here, I'm afraid. And we were going to check out the restroom. The door hangs open, and we enter. Pipes stick out of the floor in the spot where a sink used to be. On the wall above is a cracked mirror. On the other wall is a graffito. Graffiti is something of a recurring theme in Ryan's works. The graffito looks like it was written in magic marker. It got stuck on the breeze. Which I'm wondering if that is a lyric that I do not recognize. Just examine the mirror. In the glass, you can see the cracked reflections of the graffito, of the doorway behind you, and of the shelves outside. But you cannot see your own reflection, for you are like a ghost. Okay, yeah, I wondered if the reflections would just redirect back to the mirror, which it seems that they do. So let us go out, and let us wake. And go at last to Japan. We are going to show the rod to Kazue. She squints at the fishing pole. Why do you have that? She asks. But clearly she doesn't really want to know. And to Yasushi as well. You present the pole to Yasushi. He wholeheartedly approves. You should try that out in the pond behind the cabin, he says. I know there's at least one fish in there. So, if we go out, to the northwest is the cabin. Is the pond. And if we just try fishing, you drop your hook into the pond. Time passes. The bell tolls. Something tugs on the line. You pull a silver carp out of the water. It flops back and forth a bit, and then dies. Alas, the little match girl is a killer, it would seem. I wonder if she will have to kill again before all is said and done. The fish is not big, and it is not ugly. But I suspect it may be appealing to a cat? I think probably a cat. Let's see. Let's show the fish to Yasushi. We show the fish. He grins. Right on! Fishing will be a wonderful hobby for you. I just know it. Which is interesting expression, but I suppose we are translating from the Japanese here. So, show our fish. She cannot bring herself to show any interest in our fish. We wake. I suspect that our vampiress will have no interest in the fish, but let us show it to her anyway. She draws back from the fish. Silver, she hisses. My weakness! Oh, it's just a fish. She calms down. I don't think... Oh, wait. We need to go to Atlantis. To Irene, oh no, a poor dead fish. Irene seems ready to cry, so you put your fish away quickly. I likewise suspect Poseidon shall not be too pleased. Poseidon frowns. Oh, a dead fish. You can keep that, little girl. And Eunoia? She runs a finger over the fish's scales. Very nice, she says, but she doesn't show any further interest. Interesting. I guess she is the collector of dead things, so she would be less put off by it than the others. So if we now go to Nash's home in Cuervo, you show Nash your catch. That's a pretty little fish you got there, little girl. You know who'd appreciate that pretty little fish? Is that half-starved alley cat what lives under the wrecked Ford Escort behind the store? You and that cat ought to go make friends. So out we shall go. The cat is still visible here. So let us show the fish. You set the carp on the blacktop near the wreck. Here, little puss, you sing. Come get your fish. The cat stares at you suspiciously. It stares at the fish suspiciously. Come now, puss, I won't hurt you. The cat stretches out from under the car, sniffs the fish, and begins eating. Soon it is at ease and consents to be petted. By the time the fish is gone, the furry creature trusts you unconditionally and insists on being carried in your arms. So, we have made a friend. The little creature seems very content to have you as its new mommy. So, what is the most responsible thing for a new mother to do but to show off her new ward to all and sundry? So let us enter the building and show our cat. You show Nash the cat. He grins. Well, heck my dangs! I do believe you've made a friend. Good on you, little girl, and good on you, little kitty cat. So, the cat is at home here, but let us now see if he comes with us. I'm assuming. I don't know that that's the case. And here we are. But we only have our matches, and yet we are perfectly capable of bringing items from one of these visions to the other, which is only now just occurring to me again how odd that is. Let us strike our third match. Show our cat to Kazue. She recoils. Get that thing away from me, she barks. I hate cats. Unfortunate. We show him the cat. He grimaces. You'd better keep that away from Kazue, he says, which we learn the hard way. Let us wake. Bring the cat to the undersea world, where he seems to be as perfectly capable of surviving underwater as we are. You raise the cat for Eunoia's inspection. Oh, what is this? She asks. A pussy cat, you explain. Eunoia frowns. Really? Poseidon? You show Poseidon your cat. What a cute land creature! But it seems a little too interested in me. Indeed, the cat is licking its very chops! I do not recall having seen that interaction before. To Irene's room. You show Irene the cat. What an adorable land creature! But how is it breathing underwater? I didn't have to make her say that, but I did, and now I have to come up with some kind of response. Oh, wait. No, I don't. And so Ryan merely abdicates the responsibility to explain this inexplicable development. So let us wake. And go now to Paris. The little girl's little fingers found the first match again, and she scraped it against the wall. Skrished! Krishish! She kept on scraping it against the wall until it burst into flame again, and she once again found herself in the boudoir. Urimedon stands behind the couch, improvising slowly on her violin. So, Miss Urimedont, you say, I thought this may be a good friend for you. You lift the tiny cat in both hands. She sets her violin down and accepts the mewling gift. Little girl, she says, you are so very kind-hearted. Here, she says, and she pulls a bottle of wine from under her chaise-longue. Take this as thanks. She presses the bottle into your hands, and then she goes about cooing over the cat. Such a kind little girl, so pure and innocent, and so stupid. Couldn't you guess the reason I would want a friend? Someone to stay with me here? She rubs the cat's fuzzy tummy, and it purrs in ecstasy. I must feed, Urimedon hisses, and this creature will be a delicious snack to tide me over until the next idiot vagrant stumbles into my cavern. Yes, when the hunger rises next in me, I will drink this little kitty's blood. Foolish little girl! Urimedont cackles, and the unwitting cat responds with a joyful meow. The vampiress lets her new pet climb onto her shoulder. Then she lifts her violin and begins to play with renewed energy. Well, this will not do. Let us take our cat back then. The cat is way up on Uremedont's shoulder. We talk to her. Miss Urimedont, you plead. Please, don't devour poor little puss. Urimedont hisses. Don't I deserve to live? She says. I cannot live if I do not feed. You're just lucky you're too ghost-like and insubstantial for me to suck your blood. Well, this will not do. But at least we have this wine, which we cannot read. But let us bring it and see who may make use of this. First, we go to the second. Let's talk to Irene. But she's just talking about her collection again. Please show the wine. Oh no, this actually is where it goes. Well, let us undo that, because we still have other people to show it to. We need to show wine to Poseidon first. Poseidon regards the bottle with faint recognition. That seems like the kind of thing my daughter Irene would find very interesting, but I don't know if it's best to encourage her odd hobbies. Well, unfortunately, we will be encouraging her odd hobby soon, but first, we will show this to everyone else we can think of. Irene rolls her eyes. I don't care about bottles, little girl. I made a deal with my sister Irene years ago. She gets the bottles, and I get everything else. To see if the couple cares at all. You hand the bottle to Yasushi. What is this? He says. Oh, wow, thank you. But we don't have a corkscrew around here. You'd better keep it for yourself. He hands it back to you. So she will likewise have no benefit from this. We show the wine to her anyway. Oh, no, she says. That's the last thing I need. Let's bring it to Nash now. He waves the bottle away. No, little girl. I am off the sauce for the next week and a half. Doctor's orders. So, now let us bring it to our sister. Irene, you say, would you like to add this bottle to your collection? Irene runs her fingers over the wine bottle's glassy hardness. Her eyes widen. Chateau Sombrement! I don't have this one yet. She clutches the bottle, but looks you in the eye before she takes it from you. Are you sure I can have it? Of course, Irene. We must be kind to one another. We must treat each other like sisters. She kisses your forehead. Then she takes the bottle, swims up the wall of her room, and places her prize in what looks like a randomly chosen rack. Then she begins darting back and forth looking for something. I have to repay you, little girl, and I have just the thing. At last she finds it. A different bottle. She swims down to place it in your arms. It's empty, but it's not what's inside that counts, she says. I chose it because it's small and beautiful, like you, little girl. Thank you, Irene, you say. I perhaps should have made specific voices for each of the characters, but it's too late now. We're already in the thick of it. So, our bottle. You offer the bottle to Irene, but she won't have it. We are sisters now. We've made a trade. A trade is forever, just like sisters are forever. So, Poseidon should recognize that. Isn't that one of Irene's? Put it to good use, little girl, or pay the price of betraying my daughter's trust. And Eunoia cannot do anything with it since it's a bottle. She rolls her eyes. I don't care about bottles, little girl. I made a deal with my sister years ago. She gets the bottles and I get everything else. So the bottle will likely go for milk, if I'm remembering right. So our vampire will not care about it. She goggles at the bottle. You drank it all already? Wait, that's a different bottle. What did you do with the wine I gave you, little girl? We can't tell her, unfortunately. That's a weird way to phrase that. Talk to Uremedon. Yeah, she still just objects to the cat being threatened. Let us go to New Mexico. Nash smacks his lips. I tell you, little girl, I feel just like that bottle today. About as empty of life-giving fluids as a fella can get. Life's sad in many ways, but I have heard that it gets better. So he seems kind of thirsty for some reason. We're going to do something about that, perhaps. So here is Kazue. Let's show our bottle. She gapes at the bottle and then smacks her forehead. I forgot, she groans. I forgot to milk Hanako, and I can't get up now. Hanako? I forget exactly how the stresses are supposed to be expressed. Let us go out then and see if we get corroboration from Yasushi. The sight of the empty bottle seems to jog Yasushi's memory. You know what? Hanako hasn't been milked all day. Kazue was supposed to do it, but she's been feeling so terrible, and I've been busy with... He looks down at his work. Well, calligraphy. So, we shall milk his cow. The cow is awake, but the hen seems to be asleep. Milk cow. You kneel next to the cow and set your bottle beneath its udder. You have a little experience with these things. Before long, the bottle is mostly full. It is no use trying to feel anything, for you are like a ghost, and yet we can milk. Intriguing. Examine the bottle. We probably should have done that before we filled it with milk, but c'est la vie. Our eye glistens. We go out. This is not where I meant to go. I meant to go in. Show bottle. Well, thank you for taking care of Hanako, Yasushi says. You can keep the milk for yourself, or share it with a friend, but I'm not thirsty. You show her the milk. Oh, you took care of Hanako. She manages a weak smile. That's a relief. Let us wake. And let's see if we can dilute our milk somewhat by going to Atlantis. Eunoia still shall not be interested in this, I suspect. Yep, that's correct. See if he recognizes the bottle of milk. He does. That looks very delicious, little girl, but I have all the food and drink I could ever want here in my palace. And Irene? Ooh, Irene says, eyeing the bottle greedily, but then she shakes her head. This is the bottle I gave you, little girl. You can't give it back to me. So we shall suggest a less harmful form of nutrition for our vampire. Show her the bottle of milk. Oh, my dear little stupid little girl. I never drink milk, but thank you for the kind offer. We're trying, but no luck there. So finally, we bring it to its true destination, Nash. Mr. Nash, you say, would you like a drink? Nash's eyes light up as you present your bottle of milk. Well, goodness sakes, little girl, where'd you get that from? But he doesn't press the issue. He raises the bottle to his lips and gulps it down with gusto. Gosh almighty, heck and dang, that hits the doggone spot. Little girl, you've done me a solid and a half. I just wish I could give you something in return. He looks around the room. Smokes? Nah. Energy drink? No, but that gives me an idea. He pulls something out of his pocket. Now, this ain't candy. I want to make that absolutely for dang sure. This is when you're feeling just as awful as you can feel. Yvette used to take 'em when she was out of sorts. Nowadays, I'm the one who takes 'em when Yvette is out of sorts, but I've got stacks of 'em back home. You can have these, he says, rattling the bottle, and you wait to take one until you can't stand to do anything else. And don't you take more than one at a time unless you don't know what's good for you. He holds the pill bottle out for you to take, so you take it. It is a little orange bottle with a childproof cap and no label, which is how you know it's the strong stuff. So, we show him the pills. You show Nash the pills. Yeah, he says, that stuff will cure headaches, indigestion, nausea, insomnia, depression, acute enragedness, malaise, coughing, screaming, itching, and a whole horrible host of other symptoms. Of course, many of them it'll only cure temporarily. That is unfortunate, but I think some temporary relief is highly desired in another part of the world and another time. But first, we, of course, shall show everything to everyone. You present the pills to Eurymedon. No thanks, little girl, she says. I get my kicks from music and sucking the blood out of living creatures. Great. Let's see if the pills dissolve in the seawater. Irene should have some interest in this, but I'm curious why she will not take it. Irene frowns at the pill bottle. It's not really a bottle, though, is it? It's more like a canister. Maybe a jar? I guess, you say. She rubs her chin. Yeah, sorry, I don't think it fits. Thanks, but no thanks. Okay, so show the pills to Poseidon. You offer Poseidon a pill. What is it? He asks. You admit that you don't know. Then I think I'll pass. And Eunoia, I suspect, will also discard this as being too like a bottle. You show Eunoia the pills. She waves them away frantically. Father said I'd be in big trouble if I got into that stuff again, she says, which... Okay. I guess when you collect everything, it's very possible you could collect a drug habit. That's unexpected. Okay. So, back to Japan. You show the pills to Yasushi. What are those? He asks. Medicine is your best guess. Maybe Kazue would like some. I suspect she would. So, let us finally convey her some relief. Kazue, you say, I think one of these will help with your head. She props herself on her shoulders, and you hand the bottle of pills to her. She shakes it experimentally. How do you open it? I don't know. She figures it out and rolls a single pill into her palm. Maybe I should take two, she says. I think you should start with just one, you tell her. She nods. She raises the pill to her mouth. She swallows it with some difficulty. How will I know if it's... Her eyes flutter. She slides back down, breathing slowly. You pull the duvet over her shoulders. So, Kazue, her eyes are closed. Her lips are slightly curled in a tiny little smile, which is how you know it's the good stuff. So, with Kazue treated now, I'm just getting repositioned because a cat is acting as though she wants to get on my lap. So I am allowing her to do so. Okay. Now let us wake. No, let us go out and advise Yasushi of his news. Yasushi sits at his kotatsu, not doing much of anything. A sliding door in the back wall stands slightly ajar. Outside is dark, cool night. Is she asleep? Yasushi asks. I think so, you say. I gave her some medicine. Oh, thank you, little girl. Thank you. Is there any left? I gave her the bottle. I think there were a few more pills, but you should only take one at a time. Yasushi nods. I finished my work, he says, raising his sheet of paper. In time for the new year, too. He stares at the paper and sighs. Come here, little girl. Can you read? Not Japanese, you say. Ah, well, the appearance is the important part. The words aren't as beautiful as the writing. That's what a calligrapher has to say. The writing is very beautiful. Shucks, Yasushi says. All right, you can have it. You think better of objecting, and he rolls up the paper and hands it to you. So, now we have paper. You can't read Yasushi's writing, but the calligraphy itself is arresting in its gracefulness. The bell rings again. 65. So I think this is a work of art and therefore of most interest to Poseidon, but we shall show it around. First to Nash. Typing one-handed because my cat is making it difficult to reach the keyboard. You present the poem to Nash. He lifts it carefully. Now what the heck have we got here? I think it may in fact be a poem. Let's see here. I'm more than a little rusty, but I think I can get the gist of it. He clears his throat and begins. In the night we shall go in to steal a flowering branch. We shall climb over the wall in the darkness of the alien garden, two shadows in the shadow. Winter is not yet gone, and the apple tree appears, suddenly changed, into a cascade of fragrant stars. In the night we shall go in, up to its trembling firmament, and your little hands and mine will steal the stars. And silently to our house, in the night and the shadow, with your steps will enter, perfume's silent step, and with starry feet, the clear body of spring. He hands the paper back to you. That's some real pretty writing, little girl. That's art is what that is. So, to our friend Poseidon it shall go, but first, let's see if Uremedon has any appreciation for the arts. You show Yasushi's poem to Uremedon. She recoils. What is this? I can't read this. It's just a bunch of ink. So she is not as well read as Nash is, who is able to read Japanese calligraphy. Impressive. Okay. So, to Yonoya. You show the poem to Yonoya. She shakes her head. I don't read Japanese, she says, but she does recognize it. We go southeast and northeast to Irene. You show Irene the poem. Words, she says. You nod. Neat, but that's all she has to say. Okay. So, finally, someone who shall truly appreciate it even more perhaps than Nash. The paper. I have a gift for you, your majesty. You present Poseidon with Yasushi's scroll. He lifts it carefully from your hands. He brings it close to his face. Ah, a poem! A poem from Japan, in the realm of the landwalkers. He reads the poem, and the palace is silent until he's finished. He wipes his eyes. I spend my life searching everywhere for beauty. I have quested far for the greatest works of art, and now a little girl sets this masterpiece before me. Thank you, little girl. Nothing I could give you in return would match the beauty of this gift. He leans back in his throne and breathes a heavy sigh. And how fares your own quest? You answer truthfully. I gave a little pussycat to a woman in a cave beneath Paris. I thought she and the cat would be friends, but she said that she planned to suck the cat's blood. Poseidon leaps up, enraged. A vampire! Base and duplicitous! How despicable to prey upon your boundless kindness! How monstrous! I will go to Paris and slay her myself. I'm not sure you can, you tell him. Your voice is like a dim, steady candle. I think it might be a different year here than it is when I'm in Paris. Time travel! Poseidon bares his pearly teeth in a hateful grimace. Of course! He shakes his head. Then you must be the one to slay the monster, little girl. Here. He leans down and pushes his silver trident into your hands. Take this. Destroy the vampire. Let justice be done in my name, the name of Poseidon. The great hall trembles with the echoes of Poseidon's commandments, and you nod. So, this is Poseidon's silver trident, a weapon of the gods, forged by Hephaestus in an age long past, and now we are its bearer. So, let us show it off to his daughters to the northeast. What are you doing with Father's trident? Irene asks. I have to kill a vampire to save my cat, you explain. I see, says Irene. So, now to Eunoia. You raise Poseidon's trident and Eunoia cowers. What are you going to do with that? She whimpers. I am going to kill a vampire, you explain. You blink. Now let us show it off to our friend Nash. You present Poseidon's trident, and Nash looks upon it reverently. He has no words. I like Nash. He's one of my favorites. Let's bring it now to Japan to show Yasushi what his work has rendered us. You raise Poseidon's trident. Yasushi's impressed and scared, mostly scared. Now let us show it to someone who will not be as pleased. Well, who will be just as scared, if not more so. Most likely. So, Urimedon, let us see if you can see reason. Urimedon's eyes widen as you lift the trident. Where did you get that? And what do you plan to do with that? Oh, treachery, she howls. But she keeps playing the violin. We try to talk. She can't take her eyes off the silver trident. What are your plans, little girl? What do you think you're capable of? Well, we're capable of killing. The fish proved that much. But let us try once more to take our cat. We cannot do so. I don't think this will work. Yep, that's not a verb I recognize. So I'm going to show the trident once more. It's the same. So she will force our hands. We have no choice but to strike her with the trident. You raise the trident. Eurymedon bares her fangs like a cornered animal. Poseidon's silver trident, she hisses. How dare you, little girl? How dare you enter my lair and threaten my life? Your voice remains steady. Please give me back my cat, Miss Eurymedon. She shrieks furiously. Never! Never, you wicked little girl! Never! You are left with no choice. You lunge forward, launching the trident's points deep into Eurymedon's chest. Her body erupts in crimson flames, and the cat leaps off her shoulders. She screams in barely intelligible agony. A curse upon you! The devil take you, you wicked little! But she is consumed by fire, and then she is no more. The cat dashes over to you, climbing up on your shoulder. You pick up Eurymedon's violin. The little creature is just as happy perched on your shoulder as it was on Eurymedon's. And the violin? Eurymedon's violin is a work of art in itself. So, if we wake, you blink, and the world seems to melt before your eyes. And as she came to her senses, the cold of New Year's Eve crept back into her limbs. The little girl was alone. No, she was not alone. She was again in the corner between two houses, out in the freezing night. But her cat was upon her shoulder, and the violin and bow were in her hands. I don't know if we'll be able to strike matches at this point. No, the matches are gone. So the violin. The little girl was glad the violin had come along, but even so, she was happier to have her cat with her. The little creature rubbed itself against the little girl, and the two poor things kept each other a little warm for the time being. Let us play. Let us first pet the cat. She could not feel a thing, for her little hands were numb with cold. And let us play the violin. The little girl raised the violin to her little chin. With her little arm she drew the bow across the strings. The sweetest music that was ever heard in that city filled the snowy air, for it was played by a musician whose part was pure, and all the people walking through the city stopped in their tracks and thought of how lovely it was, and New Year's Eve was transformed into a truly blessed night. Soon a man approached the girl. He was a tall man, and he wore a top hat. By this the girl reasoned that he was a rich man, and she wondered whether he would attempt to buy the violin from her, or else to take the violin from her. But the man leaned down and said, Little girl, what you play on that violin is the most beautiful music I have ever heard. Tell me, little girl, what is your name? I have never been called but little girl and landwalker, for my father never gave a name to me, she replied. Your father sounds a cold man. At what price would he value your life, little girl? The girl shuddered, but she answered truthfully. As he has ordered me out into the streets to sell matches that none will buy, and cares not if I should freeze and die before I return, I should say that he values my life no more than he values a farthing. The man clapped his hands joyfully, and all at once he swept up the little girl, her cat, and her violin in his arms. Then I shall purchase you from your father at the price of 5 farthings. No, 15 farthings, he cried, and I shall be your new father, and you will never want for food or shelter, nor shall you be ordered to sell matches by anyone again. Oh, happy, happy, cried the little girl. Oh, good, good sir, she said, clutching at the man's coat and weeping tears of joy. What is your name, good sir? My name is Ebenezer Scrooge, but you must not call me sir, nor Ebenezer, but father. And you will be called little girl no longer. Henceforth, your name shall be Ebenezabeth Scrooge. Oh, happy! Ebenezabeth squealed in glee. Happy, happy! The end. And this concludes Ryan Veeder's The Little Match Girl.